We're live.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Robert McCaw, CARE's Director of Government Affairs. Thank you for joining today's Daily Dose COVID Conversations with CARE. Our program's title is Could the Louisville Metropolitan Police Department Get Away with It because there's no body cam footage. Our program will be going over Monday's police shooting and death of African-American business owner David McAtee in Louisville, Kentucky. Discussions about police body cameras and what can be done about it. Our guest today is going to be Sister Wahida Muhammad, who is the CARE Kentucky Board Chair. And to start our conversation, we're just going to watch a video from the news recapping what's at play. Video's coming any second. I am waiting for that video. In the meantime, is Sister Wahida here? Assalamu alaikum, sister. You just have to take your mute off. So, assalamu alaikum. We were going to see a video about the protest and shooting that had just taken place, but maybe run us through what's happening in Louisville, Kentucky. What should we know?
Well, unfortunately, Robert, again, an unarmed African-American man has been killed by police. I should begin by giving greetings to our audience. But this is a very upsetting day in a long list of very upsetting days. This incident took place yesterday in Louisville, Kentucky. The West End, Robert McAtee, an African-American man, a business owner, well-known in the community, well-liked and respected, was killed in a police incident yesterday.
So describe to us the setting. How did the shooting take place? There was a protest nearby, but at McAtee's food stand, there was just a crowd of hungry people. What happened? Well,
actually, to give a full history of this, I'll have to go back to March 13th, when Breonna Taylor, another African-American who was killed at the hands of the police department in the same city that David McAtee was killed, was shot to death in her apartment. And this, of course, along with all the other incidents that are happening around the community, around the world, around the nation, that we are becoming aware of Black people being killed by police officers, has it has brought about the grief and the anger and the trepidation of African Americans regarding law enforcement officers. And so that day, the day that Mr. McAtee was killed, there was a demonstration, a protest in Louisville related to the killing of Breonna Taylor. She was killed on March 13th. And so police were in the area as a result of a protest. They were asked by Governor Beshear to be there, the police and the National Guard. This group that was fired upon, and only Mr. McAtee was killed, was the only one injured. This group that was fired upon was not part of the, at that time they were not protesting. And from what I understand, they were not part of the protest, at least were not protesting at that time. They were gathered around Mr. McAtee's food stand. He operates a barbecue stand, long-standing. He's been doing this for 30 years, cooking in the community. He's known as a cook. People love his food, and people were gathered around, no doubt to get food or talking about the day's activities. And the police came up, and their interpretation of the situation was that they were fired upon and that they returned fire. And as a result of that, David McAtee was killed.
Now, there's an issue with there not being any body-worn camera footage from the police. Is there any footage from people that were nearby the stand? Is there anything that can corroborate what not what the police is saying, but the victims?
Well, I mean, we have a history of there being no evidence other than cell phones. We can go from Rodney King,
Sure.
where we would have no idea of the horrific, and every time I say his name, it's traumatic, because the images of the police, the horrific beating that Rodney King received at the hands of the LAPD is just horrible. Any Black person that hears Rodney King's name, it sends a chill up your spine. And I'm sure many other people too have witnessed that video. But from Rodney King to George Floyd, without a video camera, how would we know what happened?
Absolutely.
Would we know of Rodney King's beating? Or will we have only the police's interpretation of it? Would we have anything other than the police of Minnesota's interpretation of what happened with the incident with George Floyd? So, I mean, the fact that these police officers who have, whose protocol it is to wear body cams, the Louisville Metropolitan Police Department has a protocol of wearing body cams and having them on anytime they're interacting with the public, anytime. And these body cams were not on. So all we have is their word. And at a time when the African-American community is so apprehensive, with rights to be apprehensive, about how the police interpreted incidents when they are interacting with the African-American community, to hear that the body cams are off and another African-American man has lost his life is infuriating, it's frightening, it's intimidating to the African-American community.
And just to clarify my question earlier, I was just hoping that maybe we had some video footage from the people at the stand or nearby, since the police obviously were not following the law and having their own cameras on. Just to show.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, no cell phone video has emerged from that incident.
You know, it's sad that civilians now have to be the ones recording these incidents because the police won't follow procedure. Just to show what took place that day, we've solved that technical difficulty. So we're going to run the news clip that shows what we're all talking about, and then we can talk next steps.
Okay.
God, so I pray that your will be done even in this situation. God, I pray that you will comfort this mother and these family members, these loved ones out here. God, I pray for every protester out here that they will feel this mother's wishes and protest in peace.
Like me.
That is absolutely tragic.
Listening to the tears of that mother, I mean, I'm a mother myself and a grandmother, and I have grandsons, young men who go out every day into the world. And like other African-American mothers and grandmothers, I worry for their safety.
Absolutely.
I worry for their safety. And unfortunately, we have to tell even the young ones, caution them about interaction with the police. We don't have the same ability as other parents to say, if you're lost, Johnny, look for the police.
Yeah.
If you need help, look for the police. They'll help you. I mean, we have to tell our children, we have to caution them how to be careful in their dealings with the police. And to hear that mother's tears, I mean, it's just heart-wrenching. And for every African-American mother, and should be for every mother, to hear, that her son was gunned down like that for no reason. It's very, very painful.
And not only was her son gunned down, but his body was left out there for hours by the police.
Left so undignified to just leave his body laying there. I mean, they killed him and then just left him there like an animal. The same thing with George Floyd. I mean, he was dead and still that police officer stayed on. I mean, he stood over him as if he was a trophy, an animal trophy from a hunt. He stood over him and kneeled on his neck. I mean, this is the kind of mentality that African-American people are talking about, the pain, the fear, the anger that comes with dealing with law enforcement officers. And as far as body cams are concerned, their body cams were off. So we only have their side of the story for what happened.
And people that were there at the scene, they're actually contradicting the police's statements. And so that's worth noting. It's just he said versus she said, except when people are in a position of power.
And I would think that the police department, I mean, there have been, yes. I would think that the police would want to have the body camera footage that would, exonerate them or prove their innocence in interaction with people where there's a controversy over how it took place. But in this case, there was no footage on the body cams.
So what is CARE Kentucky doing to change this situation? You issued a press release today. What are you calling for?
Well, we're calling for, as a result of this action, the chief of police of Louisville was fired. He was going to retire in a few months anyway, but he was fired, and we're happy that he was fired. But CARE Kentucky is asking that all of the officers that were involved in this altercation who did not have their body cams turned on, which is the protocol for their department. They did not have their body cams turned on. That is against protocol. We're calling for all of them to be fired.
And just also, you issued an action alert today, a click and send alert. It's on your social media feeds and it's on CARE's website. What's that alert asking people to do?
Well, we're asking Louisville citizens to demand, to sign a petition demanding that the mayor take steps to see that those officers are fired, that they're relieved of duty. They're now on administrative leave, which means they're still being paid. And we're happy that the local, state, and federal officials are involved in investigation, but they should not be working. They should not be working. When they are not following this police protocol of turning their cameras on, it comes into question, what other police protocols are they not following?
Absolutely. And that's just to make clear, the Kentucky Department of Justice, the FBI, the Kentucky State Police are all investigating this shooting death, McAtee, by the Louisville Metropolitan Police Department officers. And these officers, they're not on leave, you're saying? They're still working?
Well, they're on administrative leave.
Administrative leave, okay.
So, which is different from a firing.
Well,
Yeah,
they should be held account for not following procedure.
they should be held accountable. And because at this time, when the community sensitivities are so inflamed, the police need to be held accountable. I mean, they should be even more strict about being accountable. And
I
when
mean,
you have officers who are not following protocol, and we have questions of what other protocol might they not have followed that day, we don't know.
and that's why it needs to be investigated.
Exactly.
And tensions are so high in Louisville right now because of the shooting death of Breonna Taylor. Can you
Yes.
tell the audience a little bit about what just took place 2 weeks ago? And this happened before Floyd's murder, or was this? Give us the timeline.
Breonna Taylor, March 13th.
Okay.
So Breonna Taylor was, there was a no knock, which Kentucky Care wants to fight, join the fight against. The police entered her apartment. Breonna Taylor was a emergency medical technician, and the police entered her apartment. Her fiance, because it didn't know who was entering the apartment, fired. The police returned fire, and she was killed. So this is another incidence of a police procedure that really needs to be challenged. When someone enters your home, you don't know who it is. They haven't identified themselves as police. They simply, knock down your door and come in. If you have a weapon to defend yourself, what are you going to do? You're going to defend yourself and your family.
I think that would be the sensible response. If someone kicked open my door and they didn't announce who they were, I would take every action I could to protect my family.
Right.
And the boyfriend in that incident, he did not know it was the police when he gave fire to protect himself and his girlfriend at the time.
He did not know, and it turns out that the person that they were looking for had already been apprehended and was in custody, but because of the police miscommunication or whatever, they continued with what they had planned to do and entered this. So it seems like possibly it's still being investigated, that this was a mistaken police procedure.
It just blows my mind that all these incidences of police-led shootings, unannounced.
By the way, there were no police cams on when the police entered Breonna Taylor's.
And they were ununiformed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so.
Yeah, well, I guess the procedure is that when they're uniformed, they should have their body cams on.
Just for a note for the audience, yesterday CARE joined over 400 other civil rights organizations, over 200 national civil rights organizations in a call to Congress to federally ban the practice of unannounced raids, to put steeper requirements for body-worn cameras. These are real issues that need action at the local, state, and federal level.
Yes.
And, I guess
Robert, studies show that almost 90% of Americans want police to wear body cams.
Absolutely.
This is what Americans want. And still, less than 25% of the police departments that were surveyed by the Justice Department are using body cams.
I would also note that in situations where people do wear body cameras, there's a big debate on how long that information is even stored by the police and what accessibility the public even has. And this is a wild west when it comes to policy, where every state and federal agency are making up their own rules for retention of this information. And that's why we need to organize at all levels to make sure that this data is being stored, that it is accessible, that it is not being censored. Unless to protect, of course, people's private information.
Well, and then you have a loophole there, because here in Kentucky, media is having problems with getting access to, there was legislation passed that makes it difficult for media to get access to, or any, other than a lawyer. And he even has to prove if someone is defending someone and there's a tape that could, a police cam tape that could exonerate them, he has difficulty. He has loopholes that he has to jump through to prove that he should be able to get access to that tape. So, I mean, all of these loopholes are really designed, I believe, to protect the police.
Absolutely.
And we have to say to our government, we elected you to serve and protect us. So our government officials should not be putting forth legislation, and we should be fighting against legislation, as you said, Robert, joining together for this legislation that protects citizens and not protect the police. I mean, I would think that if the police really want to be exonerated in incidences where they are having altercations or shootings with people in the community, that they would want to have footage. If it exonerates you, why don't you want to wear a body cam?
I mean, they always say it about the civilian, but if they have nothing to hide, turn that camera on.
Exactly, turn it on.
I think we have one or two more new issues for next year's Kentucky Muslim State Advocacy Day at the Capitol.
Yes, we do, exactly. Yeah.
So, you know, no one feels disempowered right now. I know it's easy to feel powerless in this type of situation, but I see Americans, you know, practicing safety and health measures, wearing masks, wearing gloves, trying to remain socially distant, but also standing in solidarity, protesting. What do you want to tell people that they should be doing right now to not feel helpless, but to get involved and to make change? What's going to go on in the state of Kentucky for the next week or two?
Raise your voice. Raise your voice. Join with people who you know are fighting for these changes. Join Care Kentucky. Care Kentucky is fighting so that we have access to police video. That it's not made easy, that these loopholes do not make it easy for, you know, lawyers and other people who are concerned, civic rights leaders, to have access to, even family members to have access to police cam videos. And we should be pushing that all departments require uniformed officers to wear body cams. We also want to make sure that we are speaking up loudly against no-knock entrances by police. This absolutely has to go. So join with Care Kentucky. Join with Care Kentucky. We welcome allies. We welcome working with allies, other groups and organizations that are fighting the same fight, and individuals who want to join with Care Kentucky to make sure that the rights of individuals are protected. And lastly, register to vote. Well, if you haven't registered, it might be too late to vote in the primaries, but Kentuckians, you have received a card or should have received a card in the mail that will allow you to vote absentee. You can make a phone call and be ready and get your ballot and register to have your ballot mailed to you. It's as easy as that. If you didn't get your card yet, go to kyvote.gov and request your ballot, your absentee ballot.
Thank you.
So voting and getting involved.
You know, every politician, they have campaign teams. They know how many people from which communities, by ethnicity, how they vote. All this data is sliced down, packaged, and sold, including how well and how often Muslims vote in your area. So I think it's really important that people, especially Muslims, African Americans, all affected minority communities,
all affected minorities, yes. Let your voice be heard.
Absolutely. Now, can you throw out your Twitter handle so people know how to follow you, how they can start taking advantage of your action?
How to get a hold of Care?
What?
My Twitter is Care KY on Twitter.
All right, Care KY on Twitter. We have an action alert. You can reach out to the mayor of Louisville. You can demand that these officers be fired for not following body camera ordinances that police officers are supposed to follow, but they are not. This is the second shooting death of an African American within several weeks in Louisville by the police department. It's being investigated by the FBI, the state police. This is a serious issue, and I really thank you, Sister Wahida, for coming on the program and just
Thank
letting
you.
us know what is going
We're
on.
on Facebook. Follow Care Kentucky on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, and send us a message and let us know you want to get involved. We will get in touch with you. We look forward to joining with allies, other organizations, groups, interested people. Reach out to us. We will get back to you.
Now, if you could put something up on a billboard in Louisville right now, what would it be?
What would it be? Wow, I wish I had time to think about that.
I mean, you made 20 billboard statements already. Accountability now, something.
Accountability now sounds good.
Yeah, I would really like some
because accountability we have not seen on these issues from the highest levels going down. And we all need to be accountable. We need to hold our officials accountable from the top all the way down. And a lot of these issues are decided at the local level. So we need to know who our local leaders are. We need to know, if you're whoever your representative is, you should know who they are. Send them a note, send them a letter, talk about these issues. Let them know that you are not satisfied, you are not happy, and changes that you would like to see.
Most definitely. Well, Sister Wahida, I want to thank you and Care Kentucky for all the work that you are doing right now. My
hijab goes off to Care and all the work that Care is doing nationally, and to you, Robert. I know you do your government affairs for Care, and you do a lot of work with helping us to understand how to negotiate the government and how to have our voices heard. So this is very important that Muslims and minorities, as you said, have our voices heard. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing.
Care, we're not going to wait for someone to give us a step up or a platform. We're building our own platform for the Muslim community every day at a time when it comes to the actions of our over 30 offices nationwide, including Care Kentucky. So thank you, sister. And with that, I
please support your local chapter.
Yeah, please support your local Care chapters. And with that, I encourage everyone, because we've reached that time again, to join us for the Daily Dose tomorrow. It will be at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We'll have another hard-hitting issue that we get to explore. So with that, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.